At She Can, we tell women stories. We interview women from all walks of life and all over the world to hear their stories, how they got to where they are today, because it's so much easier to be what you can see. And I'm delighted to talk to Lynn Anderson Clark today. Lynn, welcome to She Can. You're the CEO and founder of the Know Group, and you have The Know, that's a daily or weekly newsletter about the news. Your tagline is Feel Better About the News, which I love. And we need so much more of that. You're helping 200,000 women stay informed and hopeful with daily or weekly newsletters. And the No Studio is a custom creative agency offering advertising, editorial, products, and insights for your clients. You create innovative and memorable media with your partners that will surprise, impress, and engage audiences who want to see a better world. And you also help people with their newsletters, so you consult on that. Tell us a bit more about you and the No Group.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. So I started to know about 3 years ago, and the concept behind it was I was actually pregnant with my son, and I'm a news junkie. I love the news. I love to be informed. I grew up in a family where we discussed politics at the dinner table, and that's always been a part of my life. And I just started feeling a little bit differently when I was pregnant, and I just thought there isn't news that is really serving me and
Mm,
serving my needs.
mm,
And again, a lot of it is kind of the time we live in. There's a lot of doom and gloom. COVID was really tough for the news cycle, that 24-hour news cycle that we all kind of got wrapped up in. And I just kind of went on a search of like, okay, there's got to be news out there where keeps me informed, but doesn't kind of have a lot of the noise. I really didn't find it. And I've been in media my whole career. So I worked at NBC Universal in New York and Los Angeles for many years. I worked at a media startup in the UK. I did a venture capital fund where I was investing in media. So I had kind of a lot of different viewpoints of companies and things like that. And then I started doing research on why the news is the way it is. I had a lot of my own experience from working at large media companies, and I just thought there was a better way. So I started the Know, and here we are. We have 200,000 women that start off their morning with us each day. And our goal is to keep you informed and hopeful. News avoidance is quite big. So 41% of Brits practice news avoidance. And what I'm trying to do is really re-engage people with the news. And it is women. Our demographic is 93% women. So it gives me great joy to have women re-engage with the news in a healthier way.
Lynn, and I must say, and I want to congratulate you because you do it so well. I mean, I really am a news junkie, and through COVID, I really lost my appetite.
Yeah.
And I must say that the No was such a beautiful surprise and really something that I enjoy reading every day, and I recommend to my friends. And I think that the
Thank you.
media world is pretty broken, and I don't want to be one of those people bringing the bad news, but around the world with what's going on, we have 78 elections, I think, this year.
Yeah.
I
Big
feel that
election year.
that our young people don't want to engage because they don't know what's truth and what isn't truth anymore. And so it's a system that's pretty broken and it's not serving us because essentially we rely on a majority of people voting for the right people. And so as in terms of living in democracies and with the media being broken as it is, I think you're a beacon of hope. So tell us a little bit more about your you started it for that reason, but what is your long-term vision with it?
Yeah, so I mean, the long-term vision is you hit the nail on the head. So for me, this is about democracy. This is about building strong democracies, strong institutions, and I saw personally my group of friends who are incredible women, educated, want to see a better world, and they were turning off from the news.
Yeah.
And I felt this moment of what does 20 years look like down the road in our country. I'm American, but live in the UK, and so Western democracies. If this amazing group of people who I think should be at the forefront of developing policies for the world and our families and how we live and all. We've got so much experience on what could make the world a little bit better. Just disengaging from that, and so that is my larger mission: engaging as many people as possible into kind of civic engagement and civic life, but doing it in a way we don't push opinions. We don't push, we're non-biased, we're not biased, and we don't tell you who to vote for, but
Yeah.
we'll tell you how you can get to your polling station. We'll tell you the issues on the agenda. But for me, it really is that mission of making the world just a little bit better, through a really informed population.
And I love that you also look at it from the female lens because our media is fed, and it's not that we don't have women in the media, but it still is really skewed to a sort of patriarchal worldview. And I think we women struggle to identify with that.
So 25% of editors, top editors, are women. But that leaves 75% that are not.
Mm.
And so there's things like women's health breakthroughs. There's so much science now that's finally coming out about women's health, sustainability, mental health. These are all topics that are really important to our audience that might be on page, 10 of another outlet. But for us, although that's page 10 for them, that is kind of top billing for us and to our audience. So that's another thing that hopefully we can bring a little bit of light on. If a medical study comes out, I've got a brilliant editor that can digest a medical study really well, tell you what you need to know. And again, some breakthrough on women's health that might not get that top billing, but I think is really, really important. So I think we could be perhaps biased in what we cover in that way, where we will give kind of more precedence to stories that we feel matter to the female audience.
Yeah. Lynn, so give us some insight into your qualities. What do you think you bring to the table that make you so successful? I mean, to set up a newsletter for 200,000 subscribers, that's an incredible achievement. How did you do that?
I think it wasn't without pitfalls, right? I think there's a couple of things. I think resilience is really, really important. Just know you're going to have some hard times, right? Like, I think back to when I started the business and I made a lot of mistakes, but it's not a bad thing because as long as you learn from them, it's okay. Nobody comes in starting their first business knowing everything. I thought I had a really good background I had corporate, I had startup, I had investment side, which is really pretty good training for a founder for a startup. But nothing can really prepare you for kind of the everyday ins and outs of running a business. And so I think resilience is really important. Like, you're gonna get knocked down, you got to get yourself up, you got to kind of move on and figure out what can I learn from this. And then I would say do it quickly, right? So made lots of mistakes on how we can grow and kind of top tips for all of that. And I thought things would work that wouldn't, ended up not panning out. That's okay. It's about figuring out, what does success look like? And then if you're not reaching that, pivoting pretty quickly, right? Turning that off and saying, hey, that's not working. That's okay. Because I think sometimes people get stuck because they've invested a lot of time or money into something. I don't have an ego here. I'm going to say, you know what? That wasn't the best idea. I put a lot of work into it. I realized it didn't pan out. I'm going to pivot quickly. I'm not going to waste one more penny or one more ounce of my time on that. And we're going to put it in the book as a good lesson learned. So I would say resilience and being able to pivot quickly is probably for somebody that wants to start a venture would be pretty important.
Lynn, and you've talked about the pitfalls. Tell us about the challenges you face and how you overcome them.
Yeah, so I would say I think there's a lot of different challenges. I would say specifically from the female lens, 2% of venture capital goes to women, 2%. in 2023,
Yeah,
and it actually went down a little bit during COVID,
I know.
um, which kind of goes to people go to what they think is safe,
Yeah,
which is generally male founders.
yeah,
So I think there are challenges, um, and in that sense of women just don't get funded like men do. I think there are challenges just kind of personally. I have a 3-year-old, I've got one on the way, and I think kind of the demands of that, while building a business has been extremely trying at times.
mm,
I also decided to get a degree in there, which didn't, again, looking back, probably not the best timing, but hey, we did it and we're here. um, so again, I think it's there will be challenges. Everyone has them, and maybe yours are different than mine. But I think it's about that resilience again. Um, you know, just know that it's gonna be hard, but there's so much reward at the end. I feel um truly grateful that I get to wake up every day and work on something that I believe in so much.
yeah.
And I know that that's a privilege. So yes, there are challenges to overcome. Use the tools in your tool belt, right? So there are a lot of things I don't have because of various circumstances, but there's a lot of stuff I do have. Figure out what are those things that you have and really concentrate on that rather than me saying, oh, well, I'm not a male, so 98% of the capital is not available to me. Sure, you could think that way, but I'm thinking, what are the things that I have and how do I use that? And so I would say, really try to figure out what are your tools and go really concentrate on that rather than what you don't have.
Lynn, so tell us about your scaling. So how are you scaling, and how far do you want to scale given your situation of being a mom and having also other roles?
Yeah, so I think I'm not done yet, and I think that there is a huge market for this. When I started, I did think it was a bit um, more niche than it ended up being. I really started this as like solving a problem for myself, my friends, my colleagues, the people that I've met through my life. And what I realized is it's quite a universal experience
Yeah.
to kind of feel a bit, um, you know, I would say just kind of meh about the news,
Under,
right? Like
underserviced, I think. It's really underserviced.
underserviced.
Fed
Yeah.
the material in the wrong way. And yeah,
It's most of the news is very top down. It's
yeah,
assumed knowledge. It's can sometimes be through a male lens. It can be focused on things, with the bigger story that they're talking about actually isn't the bigger story for me. You know what
totally.
I mean? There's a different bigger story there.
Yeah.
And so I thought that I was perhaps solving a problem for a certain group of people. And what I've really realized is it's quite a universal experience. So we're not done scaling yet. We've got 200,000 and counting, and I think finally after 3 years, so much of like the toying with the product and changing the growth plan and all of these things that you have to do, kind of 3 years, I finally feel like, okay, now I've built it. Now it's almost like I built the fire, and the fire's burning and it's doing great. And now I just need to pour a little bit of the fuel on,
Yeah.
because the fire's good.
Yeah.
The foundation is there. So how we were able to grow is I was able to raise some money, which I feel quite thankful for. That was about, gosh, 2 years ago, um, 2.5 years ago. And we're probably going to go raise a little bit more money now. And I feel so grateful and confident in this because I know I now know that the foundation is there. And again, just a little bit of fuel. And I think that there's so many more people that can hear about the no. And I think our impact can really multiply, which I'm most excited about, as the amount of women we can reach.
Yeah, it's super exciting. Lynn, so give us some top tips for other women who are starting their ventures now. And you mentioned resilience, and that's obviously an important point, but maybe some real practical, I mean, or maybe give some advice on how did you raise this money? Because as we both know, 2% go to women founders. That's a tiny amount. And a lot of women fighting for that tiny piece of the pie, the overall pie.
No, it's a good thing, and I think one of the top tips, it might seem quite simplistic, but it's like just do it.
Mm,
So I'm a bit of a perfectionist. And something through my startup journey I've really had to swallow is perfection is the enemy of progress, right? So I especially during the fundraising process, I wanted to be so buttoned up. I wanted to be so professional, know every single number, have thought of every question, because I did feel like perhaps if only 2% is out there for me, I wanted to be perfect. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And ultimately, you just got to go do it. And of course, preparation is key. But I think I could have gone out 6 months earlier.
mm,
I just was the perfection held me back. It was the fear, I think, of not being, I'm like, oh, I could change this on my deck a little bit. Guess what? Did that matter to me raising money? Maybe, but probably not. It just held me back for a month.
yeah.
And so I would say it's one foot in front of the other. It's figuring out your end goal and doing it. And there's never a right time. And I think, I closed my round with like a 6 month old, which probably not ideal. Um, I started the company when I was 5 months pregnant. Looking back, a little bit delusional, but like here we are. It's, we did it. And I just really, really want the message to be there's never going to be the right time. Your deck's never going to be perfect. You're never going to be fully prepared, but take those first steps. If you're really passionate about something, go out and do it. Because if I would have waited for the perfect time or the perfect deck or perfect anything, I wouldn't have any of this. So just, it's really scary, but I promise you, do it. Just do it.
I love that, Lynn, and thank you, and super, super important points. So, what do you feel is your biggest achievement? What are you most proud of?
Yeah, I mean, there's individual things like we really helped on a campaign, gain awareness on a campaign that actually ended up being discussed in Parliament on International Women's Day about 3 days paid leave after miscarriage, which I think was really amazing. And we did so much work behind that campaign. So there's kind of policy wins that I'm quite proud of, but I think it's like the day to day. I get emails every day, and I'm not exaggerating when I say every day, from our readers saying, you've helped my mental health. I feel more confident with my boss now because I now talk to her about, in the mornings about something I read in the
Mm,
know. And, I feel like we can have, better conversations now. Or I went and voted for my first time because I felt I finally started paying attention to the news. And so it's like these everyday emails about the impact we're having on women that is my proudest accomplishment. I mean, it is something that keeps me going every day. And on the hard days, sometimes I reread these emails. I'll literally just pull them up and I'm like, okay, keep going. Yep, you've got this. Because I do feel, each person out there that can have that better day, can vote, can progress in their job, can start a new venture, whatever it is something like if we've impacted lives, that is truly what I'm most proud of and what keeps me going every morning.
yeah, yeah, which is such a beautiful purpose. Lynn, so give us some exact plans and goals for the next couple of years. There's a funding round coming up.
Funding round coming up, which will allow us to really expand. So, it's that growth engine. So the funding round will really help us with our revenue operations. The revenue operations will then fund the growth operations. So it's kind of creating this flywheel. Again, the foundations are there. And, reaching more people in the UK. There are plans to go to the US. So we do have a small US presence already. And I think that just kind of comes from my network and my kind of presence in the US.
Yeah.
Um, but a really targeted campaign at the US to try to bring our message, our mission to the US, which I think will be super exciting because
I think
they need this too.
the media landscape is even more broken there, and
I
they
agree.
really don't know anymore what to read, and it's everything is everywhere 24/7. I do not know how they function.
It's hard. And again, most of my, not most, but a lot of my girlfriends are in the US, my girlfriends from university and my girlfriends from my days working in New York and LA. And they definitely are feeling this problem. And I think bringing in a US editor and having a presence in the US will be really exciting and a bit of a full circle moment for me. So it's really about expansion. We've also have plans to do different types of newsletters. So, for example, this one is about global affairs, politics, things, but there's lots of other verticals we can go down. Something that is really on my radar is, business. Like we have the Financial Times, we have the Wall Street Journal, we have this, but you're still dealing with a lot of those same issues of 25% female editors, nothing through a female lens. What's the bigger picture? Why does it matter? How does this actually affect? So I think there's all kinds of things, different verticals that we can start specializing in. So we are kind of just getting started. Um, we've got lots of goals, both geographical, editorially, and then just pure growth, of course, as the putting my CEO hat on, growth of course, users and revenue. Yeah.
Lynn, I've got the chills, and when you speak about your plans and goals, they feel they are so needed. And I'm so thankful for this conversation. I'm so grateful for your big vision. I think this sounds too exciting, and I'm so excited to watch you grow this.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for what you're doing as well. I think there's nothing better than purpose-driven women coming together and figuring out how we can change the world together. So thank you for having me.